was obviously going to be my program. So it's a sort of basic idea of it, but it went a lot further than that. It went way crazy.
Way crazier.
Yeah.
So you build this path. It's what, 0.88 kilometers, I believe.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I think I've read that you walked it, what was it, 909 laps.
Well, yeah, that was to go across Spain.
To go across Spain.
Yeah, which did 500 miles. Yeah.
So you walked 500 miles right here.
Right here.
Right here. What was that like? Did you walk twice a day? How did?
Oh yeah. Well, I did increasingly numbers of laps, and that toward the end I was doing 12 laps a day, which is 6 miles, a little over 6 miles a day.
Yeah.
Which is good. It's that's kind of like half a day on the Camino, which is a good thing to think about.
That was the late Phil Volker. He was just talking about his Camino journey, which he used to laugh and just call just walking in the mud. That interview was from a conversation that Phil and I had back in August of 2021. The interview was done with Phil just 6 weeks before he passed away. We recorded it at his home in Vashon Island at his living wake. This Camino journey that involved 2 continents is the most inspiring Camino story that I think I've ever heard. Despite being diagnosed with terminal cancer, Phil was determined to walk the Camino, but he just wasn't strong enough. And so he did what I think few of us would ever imagine doing, and that was to build a Camino path right in his own backyard. Over the next couple of years, he walked the equivalent of the Camino Frances and then some. Surprising to everyone that the more Phil walked, the stronger he got. And there came a period of time where his doctor said, you know what? You can go to Spain and walk the Camino Frances in person. And Phil did just that. This triumphant story is documented in Annie O'Neill's documentary called Phil's Camino. During this entire journey, Phil wrote in his daily blog, which was affectionately known as Camino Heads, and he grew quite a following. His writing was very vulnerable. He wrote about the ups and downs and sometimes the very simplistic life of living out on a farm. The blog chronicles what Phil used to call the 4 C's: cancer, Catholicism, Camino, and sometimes corn. Aside from walking the Camino, Phil also had a mission to inspire all of us to be able to better deal with our own life challenges through what he had learned with this journey he had to take with the 4 C's. In today's interview, you are going to meet Kathryn Barush and Rebecca Graves. They just edited and published a compilation of all of Phil's blog posts. And guess what it's called? Perfect title, Walking in the Mud. Kathryn is the Associate Professor of Art History and Religion at Santa Clara University and the Graduate Theological Union. She's also the director of the Berkeley Art and Interreligious Pilgrimage Project. And she has published several books about pilgrimage. Rebecca is the bride and widow of Phil. They were married for over 40 years. They share 2 children, and Rebecca is an accomplished writer. And, well, she's an expert on our subject matter today, Phil. Walking in the Mud is Phil's parting gift for all of us. While he knew he would not live to see this book be published, he took such great comfort in knowing that the book would come out and be a source for all of us. I hope after watching today's interview, you will be inspired to read Walking in the Mud and go back and watch Phil's Camino a first or second time and the 2 interviews I did with Phil back in August of 21. Thank you for being here. Now let's talk to Kathryn and Rebecca.
I'm thrilled that you decided to take a little time out from the book launch party on Vashon Island to talk about Walking in the Mud. Welcome. It's so good to see both of you. It's been a year since I last saw you.
Thanks, Lee.
I know. Yes. So it's a little bittersweet, of course, because, we're all missing Phil. It's been just about a year since we lost Phil. And Rebecca, I first want to offer, of course, condolences and let you know just how much he meant to me. And I'm really happy that I get this opportunity to welcome you here and talk about the book. And I know, Kathryn, you had this idea a while ago. So let's just start talking about it and how this idea came to be, because Phil had this blog, and it was pretty intensive. He started writing in the blog, about 2 years after his diagnosis. Is that right, Rebecca?
Well, he started the blog when he went to Spain, actually, which wasn't until 2014, because, and the reason was because the nurses at the hospital thought that would be a good way for him to, for them to hear about his travels and, all in one place, so he wouldn't have to like email them each separately or whatever. So that's the reason. He didn't know. He didn't even know what a blog was, I don't think. So he started when he went to Spain, which was after he completed his whole Camino here around our property.
Wow. Well, he was a very prolific writer. I mean, I think you guys have talked about that the blog itself would equal 2 Don Quixotes. Is that?
Yeah, he liked to say it's twice the length of Don Quixote. So he started in 2014 and went all the way through to his death, actually. And it was a daily practice for him. So he wrote something like, I think 500 words a day was his limit of entries. So I wanted to keep them succinct.
Some were quite a bit shorter than that. It did, if it was a busy time, or if it was Christmas Day or something like happening, but it was his priority. It was his first thing every day in the morning. He would do the writing.
Wow. And he has just always been such a disciplined person. I mean, from the walking, from the writing. Was he always like that, Rebecca, where if he decided to do something, he could just be really committed and really do that every day?
Yeah, he was like that.
Yeah. Wow. So let's go back and maybe do some, I guess, put a little reference around this for everyone. And Kathryn, maybe I like the story about you meeting Phil and how all of this kind of came to be. So maybe if we'll start with that, and you can share how this story began with you, with Phil.
Yeah, I met Phil. There's a conference that happens every year at the College of William and Mary. It's a pilgrimage studies conference. And the reason why I love it is because it's pilgrims, people who have walked the Camino and other pilgrimage routes, and also academics and pilgrim academics. So it's a really great mix of people, most of who kind of understand the Camino vibe. And it was one of these conferences, and there was always tapas, and I was having a tapas and a glass of wine, and the person who I came to know as Annie O'Neill was at the tapas line next to me. And she said, "What are you working on?" And I had just started working on an academic book that looked at 5 case studies of people who have walked a pilgrimage route, a journey that they conceive as a sacred journey, and who created some kind of artistic expression following their pilgrimage so that other people could participate, in the form of like little cigar boxes with souvenirs collected from sites, and to kind of similar things to what Phil did with bringing the journey kind of into their home or community spaces. So I'm explaining this to Annie, and she said, "You gotta meet this guy, Phil. I just started working on a documentary about this guy out in Vashon Island, and he's had a cancer diagnosis and started to walk this Camino around his backyard." And I said, "Oh my gosh, I gotta meet this guy." And she said, "Well, let me go ahead and put you in touch." So Phil became a case study in my book. So that book is called Imaging Pilgrimage: Art as Embodied Experience, and it came out through Bloomsbury. And so that's how I met Phil. And Rebecca was amazing. We had done a Zoom. I'd done a Zoom with Phil, and I said, I think it would be good to go out there and do some field work. Phil, because he's like, these people are from Berkeley, California, are now coming out to study me. Do field work at the ranch. So I came out, and it was great, and we all kind of sparked up a friendship together, with Phil and also with Rebecca. So it was really nice for that. So yeah, that was that. And then Annie, just because I was an art historian, Annie asked me if I could look over the rough cut when the film was finally ready. So I just put on my art history cap and gave her some notes about the film. And then I think the subsequent conference, the film had come out. So Annie and I actually just screened the film at the conference and then did a little Q&A after, which was really fun.
During this time, or shortly after that, Phil developed a little nickname for you.
Yeah, I think a lot of the folks who are listening to this podcast will have not heard of Kathryn Barush, but they might have heard of Catalina. That was Phil's name. Phil's name for me, I think, based on the Spanish name for Catherine. He did playfully give people nicknames that sometimes they really brought out the essence of the person, you know, like
Yes.
Quick Rick. And,
He named Farmer John.
Yeah.
oh yeah, Pilgrim Farmer John.
Pilgrim Farmer John.
PFJ.
PFJ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Zucker, Dr. Zucker.
Oh,
became
Danger Zone.
Danger Zone,
Yeah.
because his initials are DZ, and every time he came in, they weren't sure if it was going to be good news or bad news. So it was kind of like Danger Zone.
So that's great. One of the things that kind of comes out in the book is that there's this time where Phil's signing off just as Phil, right? And then there seems to become a time throughout his blogging that he then starts signing off in Felipe. And I'm wondering if, you know, just kind of thinking about Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, if there's maybe something here of where Phil began to kind of take on his new role, this new role as hero. I don't know. Could you speak to that a little bit, Kathryn and Rebecca? That do you sense that and how he had a transformation here?
Yeah, I love the idea thinking about the hero's journey, how there's a kind of moment of self-transcendence or acceptance. And I don't want this to sound too overwrought, but to me, it also reminds me of when someone decides to take on a name in religion, or to kind of they become someone else through accepting a new role on their journey. There is a switch where everything starts becoming a little bit more philosophical, and
Yes.
he kind of switches from Phil to Felipe. And to me, Felipe kind of comes about as this, I don't know, like how do you express that? Like he becomes sort of enlightened, and then he starts signing off Felipe. It reminds me a little bit of Saint Ignatius of Loyola, who I know Phil admired actually. And I earlier this summer I walked the Camino, the Ignatian pilgrimage route, and Ignatius had a really interesting story. I mean, he was a busy guy. He was in the military. He sustained a terrible injury at the Battle of Pamplona and was disabled in his legs and had to go through a long period of healing. And at one point, he went on pilgrimage to see the Black Madonna, Our Lady of Montserrat, and he put down his sword and he relinquished that life that he had had before, and he took on the garments of a pilgrim. He put on a physical outfit of a pilgrim and left his sword and took on the walking staff. And he went from being Inigo to Ignatius, and then eventually founded the order, the Society of Jesus. And it was another kind of naming thing. So instead of naming them the Ignatians or the Inigos, he decided to call them the Society of Jesus, because to him it was they were following Christ. He didn't want them. He was someone that they were following him. He had brought this order together with some friends, but it wasn't about that. It was about the bigger picture. And Phil was a guy that was always thinking about the bigger picture.
No, I'm just trying to look and see exactly where he switched over, and it looks like the whole time he's in Spain writing, he's still Phil, but then
when he got back,
Felipe is November 2014. The rest, until then, it's Phil.
Right after All Saints Day.
Right after All Saints Day.
Wow. Seriously. November 2nd, 2014 is All Souls, and then he signs off Felipe.
And he opens that entry with the poem by John Donne, No Man is an Island.
Let me just back up for a second, and I'll just say that he signs off every entry with a little you call it a little blessing, something like
Loves,
or
like what kind of loves, like
yeah,
like, well, let's just see here.
Yeah, give something to
Victoriously we love, always attainable love, one thing at a time loves.
As you were flipping around, I also just noticed Alita's flan recipe. And I should point out that the book is great because you get a lot of get a lot of extras. I call it part Old Farmer's Almanac because you get a lot of advice about growing corn. You get some recipes, and you get some lovely illustrations that that Phil did that were they're little sketches, little round sketches that were that he used to kind of punctuate a map of the Camino de Santiago, and each chapter you get a little Phil sketch. So you get some little extra.
I love that part. So maybe talk a little bit for a few minutes about what the goal was in putting together this particular book.
I mean, it was your idea, wasn't it?
Well, I just thought that there's the film, which is a great telling of Phil's story, and there's the blog. But for the film, you have to you have to be somewhere where they're screening the film, and with the blog. So, well, as Rebecca was saying, when Phil started blogging, he wasn't really familiar with what a blog was.
So how did the Camino heads come about? How did this, you had a blog, you were writing, and then the Camino head just kind of became this community.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Mr. Rogers deal.
Yeah.
No, it is. It is. And I don't know. That's crazy, but it is. And we have people sort of all over the world that tune in. I mean, it's a modest amount of people. I'm not, going to attract any sponsors or anything, but it's all fun, and it's all, it's all meaningful. So I wrote the blog every day for 7-8 years.
Right.
And I think some people just kind of appreciate having something like a book that they can carry with them. And one of the main ideas was actually just to have something that people could have with them, perhaps if they're going through chemotherapy treatments, which Phil went through. And he often actually blogged from what he called the comfy chair, which was the chair at the hospital at Swedish Medical Institute, where he was receiving treatments. And he blogged right from the chair. And he actually blogs also on the road on the Camino. So he was kind of taking his iPad with him. And we just thought it would be nice to have something that people could hold with them. And one of the things that's really fun about the book too is that it's such a kind of condenses Phil's wisdom into kind of a handheld thing. And so you can open up to any page, and it will it'll give you a little bit of wisdom for your just a little something for your day. I've had my copy on my bedside table, and I just every once in a while I just open up to one of the pages, and there's some kind of story or an encouraging message. This is actually, Phil loved it when I put things into historical context, and I'll just say, in that spirit of Phil, there was an old game that people used to play called Virgilian lots, like as in drawing lots, L-O-T, and people would take copies of Virgil, and they would like just flip through and open up to a page, and the sentence that they pointed to would tell their fortune.
Oh my goodness.
It's kind of like that with walking in the mud, but instead of a fortune, you get a really nice bit of advice that can really, buoy you up through the day.
Oh, I love that. As I was going through it, I just have the manuscript part, and so I'm kind of flipping through. It was just so fun reading, how we say, entries from different periods of time, right? And so many things were coming back to me, and then of course there were several parts that were very emotional for me throughout the book. And I love this idea of what you're saying. It's almost kind of like a daily devotional where you could just open it up to any page. So if if you have the book in your hands, and there's going to be a little nugget of wisdom and inspiration from Phil, which, I think all of us just loved about him. And he just always had something to say, inspiring. I wanted to say his doctor, Dr. Zucker, I really love what he wrote in the beginning of the book that you included. And I just wanted to share this. He says, as a rehabilitation physician, I witnessed Phil face his stage 4 cancer, haltingly at first, then with growing kindness and confidence. Befriending his disease, Phil walks a transformational path that guides him beyond death and into spirit, joy, and wisdom. This work is a gentle cartography of the soul, an intimate portrait of one man's courageous journey with important lessons for each of us. And I know that Dr. Zucker and Phil had a very special relationship. I wondered how you felt when you read that, when he offered this for the book.
I mean, he's very largely responsible for the whole thing. I mean, well, at least going to Spain. I mean, so yeah, they did. They became, I mean, in the end, he stopped going to him as a doctor, and they would just meet outside the hospital as friends and sit on a park bench or something, you know. And yeah, he's a very special guy.
Yeah.
Along the lines of what you were just talking about, I was just flipping through. I just read this one that's actually right before the one I thought I was going to read, but
Oh,
this is
perfect.
actually,
Let's hear it.
it's August 11th, 2015, just about exactly 7 years ago. It's called Why Are We Here? Why are we here? Or why do we stay here? Why do we hang around when things get bad? How would we as Camino heads answer that? If we start with the idea that we are not in charge of things, that would be good. If we see ourselves as totally unique individuals, that would be good. If we see ourselves living the manifestation of this unique personality, that would be good. Then all we have to do is to do our best to be ourselves, right? Are we not living, parentheses, walking for each other? Are we not here because we need each other? Who can do this walk alone? Who wants to do this walk alone? The sun is going to set and our day is mostly over. Some days are harder than others, but we persist. Some days I carry your pack and some days you carry mine. We persist. I love you immensely. Felipe.
Oh my goodness. Rebecca, what a beautiful one to just turn to. I mean, that. It makes me think a little bit about, yeah, I knew this would be a hard one for all of us to get through, right? Reminds me a little bit of what your daughter wrote in the eulogy that you include at the end.
Wasn't that amazing? Oh my gosh.
So beautifully written. She's talking about how dedicated he was to his schedule and walking. And she says, I'll just start partway through. And she says, people know where and when to find him every day, or according to the schedule, he did his part. By the way, when he walked and no one was there walking with him, he would write in the journal, not alone. And that just hit me that he just, he never felt alone walking. And I think this August 11th reading says the same kind of thing, that we're never alone. And I think Phil made all of us feel that way.
And it was important for us to include Tisha's eulogy for people that weren't able to come to the funeral. That's there, that you can read in the back. There's also
Wiley's
a really beautiful essay from Phil's son Wiley, and it actually tells the story of
The Last Day.
The Last Day.
It's incredibly moving.
Wiley says it wasn't a full lap, perhaps only to the corn and back, but it was his last lap, and I was glad to be with him. I write this now on his 74th birthday and trust that he's walking with God. Walking will never be a meaningless activity to me. I'm sure many of you feel the same way. Keep on walking. What a testament to his father. And I mean, it just a beautiful, beautiful representation of Phil. And wow, it really hits hard, doesn't it? Annie talks about in the book that Phil Volker was an ordinary man and Phil Volker was an extraordinary man. And I think that's a beautiful description of him. So let's talk, how did you I don't even know how you went about picking what went into the book, what didn't go in. That must have been a really challenging process.
That was her. Well, and him, he did it too. And your mom.
No, we should mention that. They still had involvement in this, right? And
yeah, Phil and I started this process a few years ago, and we and there were it stalled out a couple of times just because of busyness and life and things happening, but we really decided to really start working on it together in 2020 during the lockdown. And it kind of, for me, it became a 9-to-5 job. So I would wake up in the morning, brew a pot of coffee, sit there, I'd have the blog open, and I'd start reading. And for me, I just wanted to make sure that there was just a few, there's so many, oh gosh, the blog, there's so many wonderful narratives and stories. And I picked a couple of threads that I found especially beautiful and just kind of followed the threads through the book. For example, there was a woman that he was attending treatments with, Jennifer, and they would make their time at the hospital as fun, festive as possible. They would bring tablecloths and battery candles, picnic tapas. I think one time they even snuck in some wine. And they really looked the other way, like they let them do it. Yeah, it was. That was a good time. Wow. Yeah, and I don't want to give a spoiler, but if you read the book, there's a memorial. There's a memorial to Jennifer that Phil created that you can read about. And so the story of Jennifer and Phil and going to the treatments together and bringing it to their treatments is one of the stories that you can follow. So it was about the stories, and once I got it narrowed down to a sort of reasonable length, Phil also went through and had a say. He had a say in which entries he particularly wanted or did it, and we went through together. I actually bought him a special stylus for his iPad so that he could mark up the copy. So I had his handwritten notes actually, and we got there. It took a while, and we had meetings, monthly meetings, or even they were more often towards the end. And I just really tried to bring his vision forth as much as possible. I mean, it's Phil's book. It's Phil's name on the cover. It's a picture of Phil walking with his friend Kathryn. Yeah. And I consider my role as a sort of curator, as someone who really just brought together the elements to put it together. And as Rebecca was reading, you might have heard the word Camino head, which is a bit of a funny word. And Phil he has a lot of what we call Phil speak. And it's actually a glossary in the back of a vocabulary list so that you can read exactly what a Camino head is. And this is one of the reasons why it was imperative to have Rebecca on board, because no one else knows Phil so intimately. So we had to have someone who would not be, Camino head, that's not an American English word, and strike it out, because we had to have that kind of spirit of Phil in there, the whole time. So some of it's a little bit quirky. We made why don't you talk about your editing, the process? What? Well, just because we, in the summer, things got bad and I didn't have any time to do it. I was the only full-time caregiver, and so we had a deadline of September for the publisher, but we got that moved back to January, and then he died October 10th, and I just knew I had to get right back on it, right? Because I still had a lot to go, and that was hard, but it was also very cathartic. I mean, because I ran across, it was just good to go back and revisit those early days and read entries that I maybe had never read. I don't know that I actually read every single entry. With your husband, right? That's a little bit repetitive to me sometimes, and but anyway, it was, so I just had to and then she offered to help me, and we finally we met the deadline of January 9th or something like that, but it was hard. And then when we got the galley proof, it was like there was still so many mistakes. We had to go through it all.
I mean, 2 sets of eyes went through that thing, I think 3 whole times. 2
Wow.
sets of eyes, and we still found stuff that we missed, but I think it's perfect now. And it
What,
was a lot
what do
of
you
work.
think Phil would say?
I mean, that's the way he would have done it. Oh, I don't know what he would say, because in a way, I mean, in a way, he didn't care about the, like the punctuation. I mean, obviously, it
Right.
was sort of written almost stream of consciousness. I mean, the man really needed some commas and punctuation, and could not spell for anything. So I don't know what he would say. I mean, he would be very satisfied.
Book, right? He'd be proud of it. I mean, that's what I just kept thinking as I was reading through it, that
Oh
you
no, he would be very appreciative of our effort, and he would be proud of it for sure.
I think he'd be extremely proud of you too.
He
I mean-
valued precision.
He did. I mean, he did precision in his work, I mean, nothing that he ever built was less than perfect. And so this would meet that standard.
Mm.
Although this is not something that he could have really done.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's a good segue for the table entry, right? So let me go ahead and read that one, because this is just speaking of Phil and his plans and his precision. This was actually an entry that he felt one of the ones that he really wanted us to include, and he actually wanted us to also include the plans, the blueprints for the picnic table. I'm showing them for those of you listening on the audio. You can't see it, but you can. But when you get your copy of the book, it's on page 126. It's called the Tapas Table, and it's also one of these entries again that's almost in 2016 on August 10th, and we're zooming in right now on August 13th, so almost to the day. He wrote, 27 years ago, Rebecca went away for a 3-day weekend to a retreat or a workshop, can't remember which. Tisha, that's Phil's daughter, a 9-year-old, and Dad were here attending to things. We had a great idea to build a picnic table to surprise Mom on her return. We got out the drawing board that I used at forestry school with a T-square and pencils and stuff and drew up a plan. It was going to be big and solid, no dinky tippy thing. And off we went to the lumber yard to pick out the Western red cedar planks, $100 worth, and we built it, just her and me, daughter and father, no distractions. And it looked exactly like the plan, 30 inches tall with the seats 18 and a generous 10 feet long. Yes, there it is. And now, 27 years later, after being out all those winters in the rain and all those summers in the sun, the table needs help. It needs its relay partner to take the baton. So this time, Wiley and I got to build the table with the same plans that somehow I still had. Wiley got to participate this time, when last time he was busy growing inside Mom and gone for the weekend. Yeah, the story of the tapas table. Somehow not 2 tables, but always 1. Said I wasn't going to cry on the podcast. Here we go. Somehow not 2 tables, but always 1. Not old and new, but one taking over for the other. Not just death and birth, but a certain continuation. The idea of the tapas table with connectivity at its heart, being one thing going on into the future. Yeah, and yesterday Patty was here to walk and after have tapas and wine on the new Western red cedar planks. Tapas goes on. She is such a dear and great new friend for us here at Phil's Camino. We were celebrating life yesterday in the warmth of the afternoon, knowing that she was to be off for cancer surgery today. We are grateful for our times of lightness in all of this. If the table was built for this one event, then it would have been worth it. We laughed, we cried, we found out we talked the same language. Okay then, you are all beautiful. Love, Felipe.
Rebecca, how many people do you think have had the honor of sitting at that tapas table over all these years?
Oh, I cannot begin to count. It's just a blur. I mean, after the movie came out, then, well, like you guys, I mean, we became a destination.
Yeah.
And you, Corey, came,
Yeah.
People we didn't even know would come from far places. I mean, and they wouldn't necessarily ever come back. you know, so I mean, probably hundreds, I don't know.
I mean, that table has heard some great conversations, has had some great food on it. Phil
Yes, it is.
seems like, who knows if I don't know which he loved more, walking around the path, sitting there at the top. It just made a full Camino day.
Yeah, he lived for that. Yeah.
And I love the idea of continuity. And he's talking about the baton being handed from one picnic table to the next. And it also kind of, I think, relates to the backyard Camino. He talks about, in another entry, he talks about Camino dust, that people have now gone and walked the Camino de Santiago as he did himself. And they came back with the dust of the Camino on their shoes, and it's sprinkled all over the backyard Camino. And he talks about how the backyard Camino takes on a life of its own, because it really became this continuation of the Camino de Santiago, and then became its own thing in and of itself. So it kind of became a destination spot. And at his first kind of end of life party, the veranda, there was even a bishop.
The first living
Taiwan,
wake.
The first living wake. There was the bishop from
Right,
Taiwan. I mean, and
right.
he marveled at kind of the people that came to bless and sprinkle their Camino dust all over the backyard, whether it was from the Camino de Santiago or from somewhere else, far afield. Once he had a Native American visitor that came and walked in the backyard. He talks about that in the book. Yeah.
He was always amazed because he always, he never felt that he was, he always just felt like a lowly sort of peasant person, that never could aspire. He didn't have academic degrees or, he was just always amazed at the people who would end up being his good friends and acquaintances.
I think that takes us back to that humbleness. You just felt included in his world, and if he could do this, I could take on anything. Like he just and you could take it on with a good attitude, a realistic attitude, and still be positive in the face of whatever was going on with you.
When he went to Lourdes.
Oh yeah.
And he ended up having this very distinguished priest as his caregiver. And everybody was like, wait, your caregiver is a priest? It's like, yeah. And they just had a blast at Lourdes. Because this guy is a pretty fun priest. And oh yeah, that was a good story.
And that's sort of how the title came about too. Walking in the Mud was just something that Phil used to say, I'm just a guy walking in the mud. And I remember when I first came to the ranch to do my academic work about the backyard Camino, I don't know, I think he thought I was going to come with like little magnifying glasses and field work. And he just said, I said to him, Phil, you're a land artist. Like, look at this, you're a landscape architect. And he's like, that just bemused him. He was like, no, I'm just a guy walking in the mud. So he said it so often. It was sort of part of his Felipe humble, true, and authentic humbleness. So we decided to call it Walking in the Mud.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect. And I think that's part of the thing that Phil attracted so many people because of his humbleness. He had this great philosophy about life. I think many of us felt that when you were speaking with him, you were speaking with a true hero, someone that was really going through something and battling something, yet could still remain so humble, so inspirational, and so full of just things to help us get through what our own struggles were. It was almost, you would talk to him and forget about that he was going through the struggle, because he would turn and talk to us about how to get through our own. And I think that's why all these people would just come out and want to be around him, because the energy was just absolutely wonderful. And it's great to see it living on in this book, and I think you're so right that you have this other form of a way for people now to meet him that maybe hadn't met him before, or maybe somebody who's in the hospital, maybe facing their own battle with cancer, that now they can turn to any page there and have, Phil's wise words. I don't think any of us ever questioned why somebody would want to meet him or spend time with him. It just, but he always seemed to be amazed by that, didn't he?
Yeah. And I have to say, he wasn't always like that.
Really?
Oh, no.
No.
There were years when he was, I mean, I hung in there and stayed, but a lot of my friends thought that I shouldn't have.
How long were you married overall?
45 years.
45 years.
And it was an evolution on his part. I mean, probably part too, but,
Right.
But there were years, I mean, no, he was not always, I mean, people think he's a saint, but he's no saint. I mean, he evolved.
Yeah. What do you think the pivotal turning point was, Rebecca, that
there were lots of things that we did over the years for like transformational growth.
Mm-hmm.
Like one thing was we did landmark education, if you know what that is. It's
I agree with that
thing, but and we did some other stuff. I don't know. It was a long process. But then, I mean, the cancer was really the turning point when he really had to make some big thinking, and he rose to the occasion.
Was it a conscious decision that he was going to handle it a certain way, or did that kind of just evolve organically?
I'd say it evolved organically. Yeah. No, we didn't talk. I mean, we didn't really know what would happen. I mean, we're just going along, and he made his decision. Like the family, we thought we had our ideas about how he should, do things. Whether he was going to just go along with, Western medicine protocols or do something alternative, but he wasn't much for the alternative anything. So he just made his decision that he would just do what the doctors wanted him to do, and then it just was what it was. It just, he just lived with it day by day and made his decisions, and his attitude adjustments. Okay, he did after his diagnosis. That's when he converted to Catholicism. So that was a big thing.
Yeah.
That was a big thing.
Yeah.
For him. Yeah. That helped him a lot.
Phil talks about some of this in his own words at the beginning of the book. There's a little bio of Phil Volker that I had him write, and I really had him, he wrote it for the book, but also for me, because for the life of me, it was so hard for me to keep track of the timeline about the diagnosis, the kind of the way that the events unfolded with his conversion to Catholicism, and he does. So I just wanted to say that as Rebecca was just describing, he does talk about his 3 C's, which is Camino, Catholicism, and cancer. And you could arguably say that there's a 4th C, which is corn, which is a leitmotif throughout the book because he grew corn here on the ranch, and it was something that really punctuated the seasons: planting time, harvest time, seed catalog time. But he spoke of his 3 C's as a woven, like a braided rope, and he said that they strengthen each other. And then Rebecca, were you going to read us?
I just had to read that other one instead. I read that.
Yeah, more.
All right. This is the Itsy Bitsy Spider. I'm sitting at breakfast and the house is quiet. I'm up early as usual. My Rebecca and all our company are still in bed as they got in here at something like 3 a.m, just a few hours ago. I think that was Tisha and the family. I'm working on finishing up my first cup after bacon and eggs. And there's this little itsy bitsy dot in my vision. Okay, what the heck is that? Is that in my eye, in my brain? 1 foot away, 20 feet away? It's appearing and disappearing. Oh man, not another new chemo side effect. Then there are more of them, and I realize that they're tiny, tiny newborn spiders rappelling down off the lamp hanging over the table. Here we go with life in the country or wild kingdom, whichever is most. What if we as newborns dropped down ropes into the Grand Canyon just for something to do on our first morning? Yeah, I have to shake my head and admire God's handiwork and admire the bravery of those itsy bitsy creatures. Let's see, which part of Mother Teresa's message would those guys fit into best? How about life is an adventure, dare it. Just a little itsy bitsy message from little old me. Love, Felipe.
I love those endings.
There are some great wildlife stories. It also just reminded me of the story of the hummingbird with a Coke bottle cap,
Yes.
which is Phil was in his work, what do you call it, studio work shed that he worked in.
No, this was a construction site.
Oh, is it the construction site?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And he found a hummingbird that looked like it was in some trouble.
It was he thought it was dead. It was lying on the windowsill.
Yeah, and he just put he thought it was done for, but he just put a little bit of Coke and a Coca-Cola in a little bottle cap and left it near the hummingbird. And when he came back, the hummingbird was gone and had revived from that little bit of sugar that Phil had given it. And I just think that that's so characteristic of Phil.
Circling back to your Farmer's Almanac kind of feel to some of his writing, right? You just get little doses of so many different things.
Well, and even though it was so condensed, because it is the whole 8 years, you do get the sense of the repetitiveness of the seasons and the cycles and the constant slogging over to the hospital for treatments, and just like, oh, okay, it's another day. You get a lot of that, but also just the gems just sprinkled in there, the philosophical, delightful gems.
Yeah.
It's really well edited.
It's a sampler. It's like those crazy quilts that you see that people made in the old days with the fabric from the different shirts and the jeans and all the things kind of sewn together. You get corn planting and seed catalogs and recipes and a glossary.
I wish we had included. Kathryn wrote this lovely poem about the lucky shirt. If I were your lucky shirt. It's just, I wish that was in there, but oh well.
Based on the lucky shirt entry.
Yeah.
Well, maybe put it on, I don't know if there's a capacity to like post it with this podcast as like an extra feature, but
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
that could be nice to have.
Yeah.
There is so Kathryn on the cover is one of Phil's friends and also Phil and Rebecca's neighbor that lives with her wife Dana down the road and really helped caring for Phil during the end. And there's a lot of, well, you can read all about Kathryn. They also did something that they called tailgate theology, and they would go to church together every Sunday at St. John Vianney, Phil's Catholic Church, and they would go to the parking lot of the Vashon Thriftway, and they would just get coffee and donuts, and they'd put the trunk up, and they'd sit on the in the trunk and tailgate. With the pickup truck. Yeah, of course. Sorry, the back of the pickup truck. Yeah. And they would sit in the. Sorry, we do it with that. We don't have a pickup truck, so we do it with the trunk when we're doing it. Back at home.
A pickup truck.
Yeah, and they would sit in the back of the pickup with coffee and donuts and just talk about whatever had been discussed during the homily or what kind of graces they received from the mass that day. And sometimes people would come and chat with them, other times they got funny looks, but Kathryn wrote, there is an essay that she wrote that's included as part of the back matter, and maybe we can put the poem somewhere for people to see as well.
Such an incredible poet. She's such an amazing poet. I'm trying to get her to publish her poems in a book because they're just wonderful.
Oh yes, that would be wonderful. So how does it feel right now for the two of you to be sitting here getting ready to go to the party and to celebrate the book launch. How does it feel?
I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, I think it's bittersweet. We were here, I was here for the Oasis with Lee, and of course Rebecca, last year at this time. And Lee, it was very moving for me when we were preparing for the podcast. We were chatting, and you mentioned that Phil had talked about this launch, and he knew that he wasn't going to be able to be here, but he talked about it in the podcast that you guys did almost a year ago to this day at the Oasis party. And here we are, and I just think we're bringing it forward. It's one more gift that Phil is offering the world, and we did what we could to bring it to fruition. And yeah, so we're just we hope it.
You did it.
Well, I hope it takes on a life of its own, just like the backyard Camino. We were talking about the backyard Camino kind of taking on a life of its own. And Dr. Zucker in the book talks about Phil's medical, being Phil's doctor was a kind of Camino, being Phil's wife is a Camino, and this book is a Camino. As you go through it, it's a journey, and it's kind of just another way to walk with Phil. So.
Yeah, I feel like you've given him another stage of a Camino, right? And I feel like this is paying it forward and continuing to share his gift. It's beautiful. And all the like you're talking, all the side stories that you've brought up today, all the other people that he has impacted.
In the eulogy about how he had a plan and did the thing, but then the thing took on a life of its own. Like we're all touched, and we're all paying it forward in our own ways. Like
yes.
you about these podcasts, and when Phil took you aside and said, I got something to say, you like gave them a platform so people could hear that. And we hope that the book is a platform where you can get a little bit of the philosophy, as my 8-year-old calls it. You love it.
Philosophy.
She calls it the philosophy.
Who calls it that?
My 8-year-old. My 8-year-old daughter, who just really loved
the fabulous Electra.
Yeah, she really loves the Phil.
You say such cute things. I love that though.
When she came to the oh no, I didn't bring them to the Oasis, but I brought that in their stead. They came to the veranda, his first end of life party, and then they couldn't come to the second one just because of COVID and everything. But she gave me to give to Rebecca a little construction paper Phil, and she said, I want Rebecca to have this because when Phil's gone, I want her to be able to talk to Phil. Still be able to talk to Phil. And it had a little blurb bubble coming out, and it said,
fear is a waste of the imagination.
Yeah, I think it's a slight misquote of Phil, because I think Phil said worry is a waste of the imagination. But Electra's a kid that worries a lot. She worries about a lot of things, and so it's something that she's been able to kind of also repeat that's helped her. So even a little 8-year-old has has really gotten a lot from the philosophy.
The philosophy, I love that.
Yeah.
It's such a gift to continue to find ways to give back. And I think you've done a beautiful job.
I feel like a lot of people will find a lot of help here in this book.
I think so too. I think he'd be so proud of you both. Like it's beautiful. And I wish I could be there with you guys and give you a big hug. And I know you got to get off to your party and celebrate and enjoy that the book is out and ready for the world to read it. And I will definitely have in the show notes ways for folks to get to where they can purchase the book. And I'll have a link to the blog so they can see the Don Quixote 2-volume series and all the things that you had to edit it down to kind of get it into a book that people can carry. And thank you so much for coming and talking about this. And it's just a joy to see both of you. Such a joy.
Thank you, Lee, and all the people that are tuning in that aren't able to make it. You're with us here in spirit. Hi. We know that you're, beaming us love here on the ranch. We could feel it.
Yeah.
Outer love from outer space, as Phil would say. So anyway, yeah, thank you, Lee, for giving us this opportunity to talk about the book. And yeah, time to go party.
Time to do it. I got work to do.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Bye, Lee.
cosas que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. Las cosas que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. I am free.